When you're in fight, flight, or freeze, you don't need empathy. You don't need curiosity, and you don't need creativity. All you need is to get the hell out of there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've never thought about biology being at fault.
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning back into our second act with Paige and Silka. I am so happy that Marla Mattenson is staying for another segment talking to us about love and relationships, particularly saving relationships. Marla, thanks for staying over.
Thank you so much. Let's dive in.
Yeah, I will link to our previous segment where we introduced Marla and exactly what she does. She is a relationship and intimacy expert who brings a whole different flavor to saving relationships with pattern recognition. And on this segment, Marla, let's talk a little bit more about when you are at that point where you might be heading to divorce. What are some of the practical steps that you teach to prevent that from happening?
Yeah. So, one of the things that's really important to understand if you're heading towards divorce, that there's something inside of you that's getting activated around your partner that's making you feel bad. It's making you feel like you're not good enough, or you're not lovable enough, or no matter what you do, it's not received in the way that you need to be received, or you're not receiving enough from your partner. And so the thing to notice is every single couple, first of all, has conflict. If they don't have conflict, then they are in a platonic relationship or they're best friends, and in which case they have other issues. Okay, but we're not talking about that. Today, we're talking about couples who actually do have conflict. And every single conflict will activate the same cascade of chemicals in your physical body as whenever you feel unsafe. And so what does that mean? I love to say, and I know you love this quote of mine, it's not your fault, it's your biology. So whenever you're feeling bad with your partner, whenever they do or say something, or they don't do or don't say something that makes you feel bad inside and starts this, round of thinking that's negative, some chemical reaction is happening inside your physical body that is telling your body you're not safe, this person is a threat, you need to get away from this person, or you need to fight this person. So the fight, flight, or freeze response gets activated whenever we're in a conflict with our partner. That happens in every single human relationship, every single one.
Well, that's interesting and that's so counterintuitive.
It is. It's like you would think to yourself, well, don't we have this thing nailed down? But no, we don't, because we are animals. Human beings we're animals, we really are. Our brain, the system of our brain is activated in such a way that it's millions of years of evolution that has gotten us to where we are now. But we still have this very old mechanism of the fight, flight, or freeze response that gets activated inside of us that says, hold on, there's a threat, you're not safe. And whatever you learned about safety from when you grew up is what gets activated. Your whole memory system gets activated around safety. So instead of viewing your partner as the loving force in your life, the person who probably loves you the most on the planet, you view them as a threat. And then you put them in the category of, you're not safe, so I need to either fight, literally, right? I'm going to cause an argument, a drama, or I'm going to flight, which means I'm out of here, whether you physically leave the space or whether you just withdraw inside and get silent. Or I'm going to freeze, which means you can't find the words. You get confused. You get cloudy in your mind. You can't find the words to be able to articulate what's going on inside of you. All of that is totally natural. It's your biology. All of us need a pause when we get activated, every human. And how long you need to pause for is determined by how much awareness you have around when you get activated by your partner. And so if you start doing that together, where you go, wait, I'm activated, I got my cascade of chemicals are flowing, I can't see you as loving right now, I've got zero empathy, I've got zero creativity. I've got zero curiosity for you. Why? Because it's my biology. When you're in fight, flight, or freeze, you don't need empathy. You don't need curiosity, and you don't need creativity. All you need is to get the hell out of there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've never thought about biology being at fault and not you or the people in the relationship. That you can actually say it's not your fault, it's biology. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a totally unique concept to me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. It's something that I have been researching personally, internally for years because I know so much, my background is in mathematics and neuroscience, and I studied at UCLA and then at Claremont Graduate University. And so I'm a total nerd scientist at heart. And at the same time, I love relationships. I've been involved in helping, couples in relationship for 25 years, starting as a doula, helping women through labor and delivery of their babies and postpartum. And so I'm just a very curious person. But then when I get into a conflict, why is it that with all this knowledge and all this understanding, I still get activated just like everybody else, and I still view my partner as a threat? Like I have to run away in some way. And so I started getting really curious. Well, what can I do differently? And so there are a number of things we can do differently. Let's talk about some practical applications.
I was just going to say how, philosophically, it makes total sense and it's super interesting. But how do you apply that to the real world, especially people listening, like going, well, what do I do with this?
Yeah, like, oh, great. Thanks, Marla.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, stay tuned, right? So here's what you do. Number one, pause. I like to say press pause. So you just press pause and you say, in the middle, even in the middle of a conflict or even after a conflict, you can pause and just kind of look around and go, oh, I'm in it. Like I'm in it. And if you can do anything different in the middle of being activated, so if you can look at your partner and realize, oh, I'm judging them right now, or I'm angry, or my thoughts are like, well, no, he's wrong. Okay. Because clearly I'm not wrong. So if you're thinking any of those negative thoughts about your partner or even about yourself, because some of us self-harm instead of acting out and lashing out at our partners, if you can pause long enough to say, oh, this is what Marla meant about it's not my fault, it's my biology. If I can pause and then say, oh, you know what? I am capable of sort of pivoting and saying to myself, hey, babe, can I get a redo? And this is technique number two. Technique one is pressing pause and allowing yourself the space to go, oh my God, I got chemicals flowing I have no control over. The second thing is, can I get a redo? And this can potentially erase the need to say I'm sorry in your relationship ever again. How would that be? Okay. If you have
So reboot, like a redo, reboot.
So instead of showing up in the way that you both just did, which is with, negativity, let's just say, you say, babe, can I get a redo? Can we reenact that exact same scenario, but this time let's both show up as our best selves. Let's both show up as our most loving, open-hearted, sparkly-eyed selves and do it in an outcome that feels good to both of us. Are you willing to do that with me? Let's play. Okay, and bring play back into the relationship. And if your partner says yes, then you literally, like actors, bring yourself back to the same scenario and reenact it and then have a happy, positive outcome. And what that does is it literally rewires your brain in the moment so that when you remember this memory, you remember the negativity and you remember the positive outcome that happened. And it literally rewires your brain.
Yeah. And that it makes perfect sense. But what came to me while you were saying that what was I can see that in everyday conversations or where, like you said, we were activated by something. What if it's something a lot more serious than that? Like, say you're dealing with infidelity, you're dealing with major money. I mean, serious stuff that is just emotionally draining and gripping. How is that feasible?
Yeah, that's a great question. So infidelity is actually one of my specialties because infidelity is if there's any love left between the two of you, it is not an end to the relationship. It is the beginning of a beautiful, challenging, deep journey home, back to yourself and back to yourselves together. So the idea is that you're willing to look at the deep parts of yourselves of why the person who participated in the infidelity, which could have been emotional or physical, and what was happening in the person who was the so-called victim. What was going on in that person? Why was there a disconnect? And how do you bring it together and weave those parts together in a whole new way? Looking at the real truth of why those things happened in the first place, and the hurt and the pain and everything. So you are correct. In terms of the redo, this is for sort of everyday fights and things where you don't show up as your best self. But if it's a deep-rooted issue like infidelity or deep financial issues of some betrayal or something like that, you probably need to get some sort of professional help. I recommend a psychologist or even a psychiatrist, depending on what's happening and why it was happening.
Yeah. Well, and the redo, where I can see this, it can save you years and years of built up resentment. Because, resentment builds up slowly. The deeper issues are usually an event. Oh, well, it can build up as well, but that being the difference, that you don't let your relationship disintegrate.
Yes, you're exactly right. It's those little pieces that I'm trying to help people navigate along the way are the things that get swept under the carpet. Like, was it a big deal that he kind of yelled at me a little bit over this? Or was it really a big deal that she wasn't as kind as she could have been? Well, in the moment, no. But those things add up and then they become this big pile. And then all of a sudden you don't realize, oh, I'm looking at other men and I'm fantasizing about infidelity and right. And you don't realize that, oh my gosh, all this stuff has built up. So I'm a big fan of sweeping the front porch every day and making sure, like, ask yourself, do I have any resentment towards my partner at all? At all? And if anything arises, do we have time for one more technique?
Yeah, sure. Yes, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So one more technique is what I call the vent. Okay, and the vent technique is basically, this is really beautiful. What you do is one partner is going to be the venter and the other person is receiving it. Okay. And the person receiving is going to take an old-fashioned piece of paper and a pen, and they are going to not look at the partner in the eye. They're going to be looking down at the paper. Okay. So the person venting is going to say as slowly and calmly as they can all of the things they're resenting. Everything that's going on in their life with their partner, with their job, with their health, everything that's going on, they're just going to dump it all out. And the partner writing is just going to write bullet points as fast as they can of all the things going on. So the one person venting can totally dump it out. And then the person writing says, do you feel complete or is there more? And then if there's more, a little more comes out. Okay. And then they feel completely, I got it all out. And the person doing the writing is doing their best to not take anything personally, not take it on, realizing that their partner just needs to be heard. And they take that piece of paper and they reflect back with the words they wrote down. So what I'm hearing is, you feel resentful because I didn't do the dishes. You feel resentful because we are not having sex anymore. You feeling resentful because and then the person who said the vent can say, yes, that is exactly how I'm feeling. And literally, it's just the first step in getting the truth out so that one partner feels heard. And then you can go and do it the other way, where the person who was writing can now vent. And that's how to get the real truth out of what's really going on. And if there's any one thing that's stuck with one of the partners, that's where that's the touch point we need to go in deeper together to resolve some of these issues. Otherwise, they don't go away by themselves.
Wow. Marla, as I said before, we can talk forever on this. I do, for the purposes of this segment, want to wrap it up. I think you've closed it up beautifully. Is there a last thought you'd like to leave us with before we sign off?
I just want to say there's always hope if there's love left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, very true. Well, obviously, we'll link to all of your information. I think you have the redo. You have more information on your website. We'll link to that if somebody wants more information on that and get in touch with you directly. We'll see you on our next segment, our second act with Paige and Silka. For more love and relationship advice, please go to our website, secondact.tv. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Buttons right here. See you next time.